My name's Charlie Van Derven. My company's Social Advisors. We've been around about 13 years. I got a little history with a couple other marketing agencies before that and helping very specifically financial advisors market their business. And I'm joined today by Zoë Meggert of Perfectly Planned Content. And you know what, Zoe, I guess on paper we're competitors. I guess on paper, right? We do some of the similar things as far as websites and content and CRMs and SEO and copy and blah 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 and all the stuff that comes with marketing, but I don't see you that way.
I don't, and you know what? Advisors always, I think, are surprised when I talk about this. I feel like all of the marketers in the industry, like we're all buddies. Like we all
Yeah.
hang out at different conferences and we chat. I've got multiple like text threads with different marketers, ask each other client questions, support each other. So I love that about this
Yeah, me too.
specific like FinServe space. But I totally agree with you.
Yeah, I know there's a couple companies out there that kind of hold things very close to their chest, but you're right. For the
Mhm.
most part, everybody doing similar work to us in the industry, we're mostly friends, I would say. Nobody's holding any secrets back. I don't know how many secrets there are anyway. So very cool. And people still rolling in. So awesome. David Buzo, good to see you. David Safer, Holly, Jacob. All right. Again, Zoe, you draw 'em. Great for that. Yeah, we got some old friends. Okay, so today, Zoe and I worked together a little bit on putting a marketing survey together at the end of 2025. We both sent out a few emails to our databases. So we compiled responses from, I think it was 96 advisors, and I'll call them independent advisors and RIAs. And really, it's just we had about 15 questions on the survey. And today, what we're going to do is just walk through the results of that survey. Everybody here will get the survey and the replay. Everybody who registered will get that as well. There's some interesting things in there, right? I think, and we'll talk about the results and what we believe the data showed. I think the biggest takeaway from the results that I saw, Zoe, was there's a lack of leadership, maybe, right?
Mhm.
Advisors are piecemealing marketing a lot. You've got some companies that are doing pre-written FINRA approved content that's out there. That's good for some. It's not right for everybody. We got some people who are using CRM technology, but maybe don't even know the top 10% of things to do with it. Anyway, so that was my biggest
Mhm.
takeaway, and we'll go through this piece by piece. Anything to comment on there? Anything else that kind of surprised you out of the results?
Yeah, a lot of it I had kind of anticipated. Like reading through the results, I was like, okay, like this is in alignment with what we see in consulting conversations. And a couple of surprises that maybe made sense when I put some more thought into it was I think the survey results to me showed, and we talked about this yesterday a little bit in our kind of prep call, just a lot of lack of clarity, like in what's going on with your
Yeah,
marketing. And that kind of ties into leadership, like
yeah.
knowing who owns what are we doing, what are the goals we're working towards. And I think that's impacting a lot of the survey results.
Yeah. I think where that's scariest for me on behalf of the community we serve is that there's a lot of vendors out there, right? There's a
Yeah.
lot of, you can spend your marketing dollars in a lot of different ways, but if you don't have a cohesive plan and everything's working as a silo, I think that's a mistake if I'm
Yeah.
being blatant about it. All right, as we go here, you guys, we're just going to go through results of the survey. By all means, Jacob, just to put a question or a statement in there, we'll get to that in a second here, Jacob. By all means, if you've got questions as we go through, ask those questions, right? We don't mind pausing on what we're talking about or expanding upon what we're talking about to tackle those as we go. That makes it more interesting too. All right, let me share my screen, Zoe, and we will get right into this survey. All right. So, Zoe, can you see my screen? All
Mhm.
right, very cool. Give me a thumbs up or a yes in the chat if you can see it. And of course, my chat's not cooperating with me. All right, I see a thumbs up. All right, there's chat. All right, cool. We got some very good. Cool. So Jacob's comment, Zoe, before we jump in, is a really good one. I think knowing how to measure a firm's results is critical. I also think that each client acquisition path needs to be measured in a unique way. KPIs, right? Key performance indicators. Yeah, I just to comment on that very quickly before we jump in here. We always want to look at revenue. I think AUM is important if that's what our goal is, but really what's important here is revenue. Revenue is a lagging indicator, right? It's all the things up front that lead to that. How are we getting people into the top of the funnel? How do we nurture them throughout? How do we convert them? So Jacob, 100% agree with you. I'm going to show you a glimpse of a CRM that we use called Go High Level here as we get into, we're going to have some comments on tracking pipeline. But I agree with you. Being able to measure every step of the marketing journey, if you will, I think is a really essential, yeah, really essential piece of knowing how this is all panning out. Cool.
I agree. And I know we'll dig into metrics and KPIs and stuff as we go to. We can talk to you about. I think a lot of times, and the survey corroborated this for me, anyways, is having really clear KPIs at every level of your funnel, where there's 1 to 2 very clear goals there for top the funnel, lead generation, nurture, conversion that are trackable and actually move the needle. And we can talk about vanity metrics versus metrics that are actually leading to increased revenue, which is the goal.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So make sure this is functioning okay. I might have to click on it. All right. There we go. Okay. Like I said about the survey, Zoe and I put a survey together at the end of 2025. I think we sent out, I don't know, I think I sent a couple emails, Zoe. I think you did the same, broadcasted on social media and such. We ended up getting 96, I think it was 96, 94 or 96 responses to it. So that was good. It's a good sample size. By no means there's some variance with a sample size of only 96, but I think it gives us some good intelligence. Yeah, so that's just to give you a background of how we put this all together and what kind of sample we're really talking about here. And you can see that the majority of people that responded to the survey, and I like to see this, was actually have more than a decade in the industry. I don't think we got a lot of anecdotal stuff in here. I think it's people who have been running their firm for quite a while and have some understanding more than what maybe a 2 or 3 year advisor would have. Oh, cool. All right, clicking through. Okay, and then so as a result of, we've got some pretty big email databases, but one of the things I like to see, I've got some wirehouse advisors in my database, but they really didn't show up on the survey results. So really this got narrow into independent RIAs, hybrid RIAs, and independent broker dealer advisors. Yeah. So I'm trying to pause to give you time to talk, Zoe, but there's not much to talk about yet.
No, you're good. Yeah, this is the majority of who we talk to and who's on my email list as well. Is that sort of independent hybrid RIA?
Yeah, cool. And then how would you describe your firm's marketing skill level? So I don't think there's a whole lot of surprises here. Just, I think with these early slides, we're just framing up basically who the audience is that we're talking about here. And do you feel confident in your current marketing strategy?
I feel like this slide was interesting. I know we talked about this yesterday, Charlie, as well. This somewhat confident. I think, and this kind of ties back to my initial concept of clarity. I think a lot of times what causes confidence in your marketing strategy is clarity around what are you working toward? Is it, I'm always surprised even at my own clients when at the end of the year I say, hey, okay, let's talk through how many clients booked a call with you this year. Of those, how many were a fit and converted? Of those, was that actually your goal to convert that many people? And the amount of my clients who know this, who I've talked to about this, who we meet quarterly to go over KPIs and meet monthly to go over strategy, even there are sometimes, oh, I guess I didn't really have a clear number of households signed goal or increased revenue goal. And I think if you're not clear on the end goal, it's really hard to be confident and clear about what that strategy is to get you where you want to go. And even if you've got goals, and Charlie, to your point, you're doing everything in a silo, that also, I think, like precludes not feeling confident, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think if it's too piecemeal together, and to Jacob's point earlier, if you can't measure it, how could you have confidence in it? So I think Jacob makes a really important point that we'll probably go back to a bunch of times throughout our conversation. If it's not measurable, you can't, yeah, it's got to be measurable for you to action on it and make decisions on it. Very cool. And I was going to make a comment on this slide, but we'll wait till the next one. Do you have a clearly defined niche? So we chatted a little bit yesterday, Zoe, about yes, you can get the meetings, right? And it's great. But when you end up with a meeting with somebody, if you got $1 million minimum and they've got $100,000 investable assets, certainly there's a disconnect between who it is you're speaking with, and your marketing should qualify to some degree on the upfront. We do that a lot by defining who the niche is, not just assets, but of course, who they are psychographically, demographically, and those items as well.
I think this ties into that concept too of just being really clear on who you want to work with. A lot of advisors who, when I first meet with them for consulting work, right, are thinking, hey, like I'm getting leads, but they're not the right leads. And it's a lot of soft metrics. It's a lot of feelings about, hey, that's maybe not who I want to work with, but I'm not sure why. And I think defining who that person is, whether it's something very blatant, like I work with physicians or lawyers or whatever it might be, or like you had touched on that psychographic of I work with people who believe in building a legacy, who want to retire and have the
Yeah.
house up north on the beach, like whatever it might be, being really clear. Or we talked about this a little bit yesterday as well. Like I worked with one client on web copy, and his specific niche wasn't necessarily one type of, it was the sort of work he wanted to do. So he really loved like very complex tax planning. That's not for everybody. It was for him. And so on his web copy, we had to define who would need that sort of work. If that's who you want to be working with, that's the sort
Yeah.
of revenue you want to be building out.
Yeah. Let's get some input from our audience here. So just a quick the question being, do you have a defined niche in your outreach efforts? Just put a Y or an N in the chat. We'll give it about 30 seconds here and see what kind of results we get from this group.
Yeah, and if you feel brave and want to share, I'm always interested to hear like who the niche might be. Like if you've got some, I've sometimes it's
Yeah.
wild. I've met with someone who only works with tattoo artists. And I was like, that's cool. Like
That
what
is cool.
interesting.
And I dig it because, of course, every niche is going to have a series of associations, right? They're going to have a series of publications. They're going to have a series of influencers and COIs. So,
Pain points, right? Like they've got a specific set of things that they've got to deal with that other people maybe don't.
yep.
Brant, I love your answer. Not yet. That's a good place to be. Oops, I
Yeah.
like that.
And Paula and Alan, great that you guys have a niche. The others that are here, if you feel like chiming in on that, Zoe, and I'll keep talking, but of course we'll monitor the chat. Zoe, the first step when we go, especially when we work with somebody on a fractional level where it's a little more in-depth engagement, that's our first step. As we look at brand, and of course everybody's got an established brand, but as we look at brand and copy, is narrowing that niche because then we can speak very specifically to one audience. I'd rather be a big fish in a small pond. And then I think we got about it's been a while since I've seen this research, but there's like 700,000 registered entities, advisors in the country, 400 or so thousand practicing. That's a really big ocean of professionals. It's the third or fourth most competitive professional services industry in the US. I would rather stand out to a small crowd than be stuck in that sea of people who are generalists, so to speak.
Yep, I totally agree with you.
Yeah. Yeah. From the perspective of copywriting and brand and everything else that you do to create added exposure, that niche is really important. Why, Zoe, do you think people don't choose a niche?
I think that it's often what I hear from a lot of my clients is they've already established a base that maybe doesn't correlate with the niche they want to pursue. Like maybe they have a percentage of their clients who are, we'll use like federal employees as an example, right?
Sure.
And that's great. And they love working with them, but it's 50% of their book or something like that. And so they're nervous to alienate existing clients if their
Yeah.
marketing then doesn't talk to them. I think the other kind of fear is it's a little bit of a scarcity mindset, right? Of saying, okay, if I say I only work with these people, like what if someone comes into the Calendly pipeline or whatever who's not that person? And do I have to say no? And I think it sets some confusing boundaries internally for themselves and their team to try and say, I'm not going to work with them, but there's just there's less flexibility, I guess, in like setting a niche.
Yeah. The first thing you mentioned, I think, is the biggest one that I see is, but wait a second, not all of the people I work with are physicians. And am I going to alienate those people? And it's an extremely valid point. I've found that we're able to write copy that encompasses the niche without losing the rest of the audience, right? So when someone's investigating or your client returns to your website or drives a referral to your website, we can mention the niche, but still be broad enough that we're not going to alienate that audience.
Sure. And I think as far as ongoing marketing goes, what I always tell my clients, like we can segment, right? Like we don't have to turn people away if they don't fall into that niche, especially if you're in growth mode. If you've got physicians as your primary book, but an attorney reaches out, you don't have to say, oh, okay, I'm not working with that attorney who's a perfect fit, other than the fact that they're not a physician. I think you can decide internally what that looks like for your segmentation, marketing rules that you set for yourself, things like that as well.
Yeah, agreed. So listen, Jacob's got some good comments here. I don't know if I'm scanning those and listening at the same time. Jacob just brought up like AEO, right? AIO, I hear it as well, but we're off topic a little bit on this, but that's okay. We'll comment on it. Search is changing so much now. I did a LinkedIn Live with Derek Pollard a few months back about how rapidly search is changing from traditional search engine SEO to AIO. And of course, people use Google very differently than they do Chat or Claude or the other Gemini or the others that are out there. Whereas search engine searches are typically key phrase or keyword. There's a lot of we interact with AI like we do humans. And so I don't know about you guys, what in your camp at Perfectly Planned Content, Zoe, but one of the things we've been doing to address that, Jacob, great comment, by the way, is writing a lot of FAQ pages on websites, right? So it's literally the way humans interact with each other. Linking and all those things are still really important. Your credibility factors are still really important, but just the structure of your copy based on the way search is changing so quickly is got to adapt as well. So
Yeah, we're doing something similar, and luckily we have already moved in this direction with our ongoing content creation. Is including things like, too long didn't read segments at the top of every blog post we're writing, or the top questions answered at the bottom of the YouTube description. Just making sure that we're getting some of those more like query based things in content for our clients.
yeah, what that in your YouTube description, such important real estate, right? Being a Google property. Yeah, awesome. All right, moving on to the next topic. And Jacob, again, thanks for your comments and your action here. Anybody else who's got questions or comments, put them in the chat or the Q&A box, whatever. We'll respond to either one. All right, Zoe, what's your most pressing marketing frustration right now?
I thought this was interesting that it was almost an exact tie of the don't have enough time and not getting quality leads.
Yeah.
Because boy, do I get that. And when I talk to a new consulting client, those really are like, and then I follow pretty closely if I don't know what's working. And I think this
Yep.
gets back to the clarity of the strategy, understanding who the quality leads are and how to tweak your messaging. To me, this whole feedback of this particular slide or the data point just indicated probably a messaging issue, like for a lot of clients. And we see this anecdotally, like with our consulting clients as well, right?
Yep.
Tying back into, do you have a niche or an ICP? Do you know who you want to work with or what those end goals are? But if you're not getting quality leads, the question is not like, oh shoot, am I just not doing enough? It's if the leads I am getting aren't quality, why? What is determining for me as a firm owner or an advisor, whatever, that this isn't someone who I want to work with? Is it asset level? Is it that they aren't delegators like I need them to be? And then how can you adjust your messaging to self filter those folks out and ideally find the right people for you? And then the time factor kind of contributes to this too, right? So if you're not getting enough quality leads and you don't have time to contribute to your marketing, it's like a never ending vicious cycle, right? And we've, as business owners, I do marketing for a living. I still fall into this. That's a very common problem to have.
Yeah, I most of us have heard have heard of the cobbler's kids who have no shoes, right? I will share with you, and this is almost embarrassing. We're building client websites and writing content and working on CRM and whatever goes into the daily deliverables for our client base. So we've been working on our own website for almost 90 days now, and I'd like to say it's going to launch in 45 days. My confidence level on that is maybe 50%.
No, I just had to do the same thing. I was like,
Yeah.
I had all these new service packages I was ready to roll out for 2026, and I was sitting on it by mid-January and still hadn't done the copy. And my designer was like, "Hey, you're gonna get me?" And so it happens, right? And so there's a couple things you can do to address this, but I think just knowing that you're not alone, right? Like knowing that this other advisors are still facing this. It's not just you who's a business owner who doesn't have time for marketing or who's not sure what's working or what's not. But setting those clear KPIs in advance so you know, hey, I want to get 12 new perfect fit clients this year. This is exactly what perfect fit client means. These are the clients that I'm currently getting. This is why they're not a fit. And these are the 2 or 3 things I'm going to do to move the needle to get where I want to go. I think that kind of takes some of the time pressure off. You don't have to do everything all at once.
Right.
You can delegate what isn't effective for you to do in house, but then just having that clarity around this is how I'm going to track what's working and what's not will also help you feel much more confident in your overall strategy.
Yeah, I would say taking a big project like marketing being this big umbrella statement, which means so much more than the message and the copy, right? There's so much more that goes into it. But taking this big concept of marketing and being able to break it down into tiny projects or stages of a project is going to allow you to have incremental growth versus being overwhelmed by this huge project. So it's what we do internally. A lot of project management tools like we use Asana for a marketing project or a website project might have 15 different columns, design, copy, videos, photos, whatever that is, client approvals, compliance approvals. The one here, I'll comment on the 18.2, which is I don't know what's working. Again, that all comes back to KPIs. Right? Are you tracking top of funnel? Yeah. Anyway, so that all comes back to knowing what you're measuring, knowing what metrics are driving things forward. And I would say probably meeting on it consistently to understand what's working. All right, cool. Moving on. Do you have someone providing marketing leadership or strategic direction? So I somewhat and no makes up about 60% of our survey audience. I think that's a huge disconnect.
But I think this ties kind of nicely into Brent, your comment here that you are feeling like a sort of perfectionist in your marketing, right? And that makes it tough to like get out of the chute, really to get something going. I actually think that this is a huge gap in the industry where business owners are expected and firm owners are expected to wear every single hat, right? Whether it's marketing, building their strategy, implementing the strategy, or hiring the team to do it for them. And it's a lot, like to try and focus on all of those things. And your business is your baby. No one's going to do it exactly the way you would do it because you care probably much more than even your team members, even if they are super invested, right? It's just you're the one who launched your financial planning firms. Brent, in your situation, and a lot of different advisors probably face this too, the feeling like, okay, if it's not perfect, I'm not even going to let it go out the door. But I think maybe expanding your marketing leadership or strategic direction team here can actually help a lot, whether that is consultant or even just pulling someone else in your firm along with you to say, hey, and I do this even in my own business, pull my team in. We're a boutique team. Our agency is small but mighty. And I'll ask my team members, like, hey, I need you to review this copy because I know that if I continue just to sit with it, I'm
Yeah.
not going to actually do anything with it. Like it's just
Yeah.
going to sit and collect dust in my Google Drive folder for this.
Yeah.
And pulling people in and taking yourself out of the driver's seat in some situations can help someone look at this and say, hey, done is better than perfect, and this is pretty darn close. Let's ship it because it's not going to do any good for you when it's just sitting on a shelf.
Yeah. I think defining roles, right? And we do that within our team, of course, but we adhere to some of EOS, Gino Wickman, Traction. So I am a high level thinker, right? I'm a visionary, and we have a pretty good amount of implementers on our team. So where I may originate copy or design or something like that, handing that to an implementer who's got a more succinct skill set in one particular column, making sure that we've got at least two sets of eyeballs, preferably three sets of eyeballs on everything that leaves. I think that helps me, like with Brent's situation of being a perfectionist. I don't have to be perfect because I know I'm handing it to the person that's going to refine it. And that may be helpful. I also find that perfectionism, Brent, of course, what we broadcast is resemblant and part of our brand. And so we need it to be as perfect as possible. Perfectionism, it's slow, right? So we want everything to leave the house perfect. It's not always that way. It's mostly that way, but we kind of balance perfectionism with pace. Right. Yeah. Cool. All right, cool. The other thing that Brent asked was, do I use Asana for building client workflow? Yes, Brent, like when we've got a large project for a client, the client will be a guest on whatever Asana board is running that project. And so they've got complete visibility to where we are in stages, can make comments on cards and things along those lines too. Yeah, to your question, there's a lot of project management softwares out there. We love Asana. I've used several of them over the years. We will stick
Yeah,
with
we use
Asana.
Monday, but we've used Asana in the past as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's awesome. We got a couple other comments here. I'll just read through them quickly. Jacob, again, thanks for contributing. Marketing for financial planners is not quite a full niche. Okay, that you're right. Certainly there's segments within that. Many people in these spaces convey that they're doing it all while also not knowing compliance. I'll tell you what, that's a great comment, Jacob, and I actually like it a lot. I like the compliance aspect of what Zoe and I do. Number one, it shields us from competition. Now, people can enter the market not knowing compliance, but pretty quickly you're going to find that out. Zoe, I know perfectly planned content is what, 10 years old, did you tell me?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
This is our
Yeah.
10th year.
Cool. And social advisors, I think we're going on 13. But I started doing websites for Wirehouse Advisors in 1998, which freaks me out a little bit. We're almost 30 years. Holy crap. You just by osmosis, compliance becomes such a large part of your deliverable, right? Yeah, marketers try to get into this industry, and I think compliance scares them away a lot.
And I think too, though, this also ties nicely into like marketing leadership, strategic direction, some of these other like confidence conversations. Is that you can look at your total marketing strategy or where you're having an issue or where you're finding some stumbling blocks for yourself. And I guarantee there's someone in that specific space or like who can do it. And so if you
Yeah.
find someone who is a compliance expert or someone who's a content person or an email marketing person, or I'm not great at social personally. And so like I have people on my team who can help with that, and I look to other people for advice in my own business on that. So I think that's actually a benefit. It's like you had said, finding just some different people to do different parts of your strategy that you might need.
Yeah. Yeah. And we had a staff of 13 at one point. I actually contract most of that stuff now. Like managing 13 W-2 employees was not my favorite part of my business.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. So
I know. I'm pretty introverted. Like a 13-person team sounds like a
it
lot.
was, we had an office and all the drama that comes with having a 13-person team showing up to an office. And yeah, it was,
Yeah. I tell my team all the time. I was like, I love working with all of them. Like we are the perfect size. I was like, let's keep it tight. Like we all love each other. This is perfect.
yeah. Alan struggles with having time because he doesn't have a VA yet and can't staff up for this. What would your recommendation be to a guy like Alan who just doesn't have the staff around for to help with these types of things?
I think that if you're facing that challenge, simple is better than sexy in these situations, right? So
Love
don't
this.
make your marketing overwhelming. Don't use every single AI tool you stumble across. Like I said before, and I can share with you, Charlie, if you want to send it with follow up. I have a really simple funnel visual I use for consulting clients. That's like awareness, lead nurture, I think. And then there's a couple other like middle steps all the way down to like client nurture. Pick one thing like per step of your funnel.
Love
Don't
that.
do 10 things. Pick like
Yeah.
I do this, right? So I do LinkedIn. I have a couple different resources. I do webinars like this for that sort of top of the funnel visibility PR.
Yeah.
But like I was doing a ton of travel and stuff in years previous, and now I've got
Yeah.
25-year-olds at home. And let me tell you, traveling to conferences is a pain to coordinate. And so I just
It
don't do
is.
that anymore. And so again, Alan, to your point, I think just really simplifying. And like I said, I'll send some resources on this. And if you've got questions, I'm happy to troubleshoot it. But pick things that you know you can do consistently, pick pace that you know you can stay consistent at. I would love to send a weekly newsletter. There's just no way I can commit to it. So I do monthly.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
consistent is going to be better than big every time.
Yeah, that's a really great comment. Be consistent. Whatever you choose to do. If you can't do a weekly newsletter, if twice a month or monthly is a better cadence, just be consistent with it. Great point. Great point. Jacob's sister has twins too. So I'm just reading some comments real quick before we move on to the next slide here. What if we have no idea where ideal client sees information? It doesn't seem to be a place or even three. Kelly, I'm going to, at the end, I'm going to be flashing a QR code to schedule a little bit of time. Would love to know who that ideal client is, just because I don't think we've ever come across one that we can't find somewhere somehow. So I would love to learn more about who that is. If you want to put in the chat, you're welcome to. But yeah, if you want to schedule some time, we can certainly brainstorm that a little bit.
And if you are brand new at a niche and you don't have data on them, getting in with other service providers who know them. So I work with a client who has talked to CPAs and Medicare professionals and whoever who also work in his niche. And so he can do some like light surveying and just say, hey, where are you finding people? Like what are your clients doing? How are you showing up for them in a way that's really meaningful and relationship oriented? And then if you have some people in that niche already, I think asking them and just saying, like, hey, how did you find me? How do you spend your time online? You can create a
Love it.
quick Survey Monkey or Google Form survey in 2 minutes and just blast it out. It doesn't have to be pretty,
Yep.
just to get some like baseline data.
I love that. Great suggestions. Okay, next slide. Which of these marketing challenges do you face? Inconsistent lead flow is by far the number one response here, Zoe.
Which I think is interesting. And to your earlier point, Charlie, I know you wanted to show some screens, which I think would be really valuable here as well, is just figuring out like where are the leads coming from and then how can you amplify what's working. So like we always
Yeah.
use the term like pour gas on the fires that are already burning first before trying something new. And so if you've got inconsistent lead flow, fall's a really busy time of year. Like how can you get in front of those people year round and just continue to build it out? But I'll let you kind of.
Yeah, yeah. So we track source, right? We track lead sources really closely, and I'll wait for the pipeline tracking comment later on in one of these upcoming slides. I'll show that to you, but being able to track the source of where your most valuable leads are coming from, and then doubling down on those sources, I
Mhm.
think is probably the best thing can do to create consistency within your pipeline. We'll talk in a little bit about consistently tracking pipeline as well. I will tell you, in working directly with a number of RAs and independent advisors, that I think is this is still a sales job. I know a lot of us don't want to feel like it is that, but being able to track pipeline or committing yourself to tracking pipeline on a minimum of a weekly basis and creating activity around those opportunities in the pipeline to move them forward, That's a huge, it takes a little time, certainly takes some commitment to it, but that is a huge differentiator between success of an advisor and a person who's maybe a little bit worried about where the next client's coming from.
And I thought this was interesting that a couple of these tie together for me. It's like inconsistent lead flow. To me, that is often probably because of a lack of CRM or pipeline organization, a lack
Sure.
of email strategy, or a lack of like clear brand, not sure how to stand out or capture my differentiator. And so I think addressing those things that are clearly maybe not working or building out a strategy for staying consistent will boost consistent lead flow as well.
Yeah. And Jacob, for your comment about the app that you built for exporting Go High Level, dude, I'd love to learn more about it. So when I flash that QR code, get on my calendar. I'd love to see what you're doing, and if it's a valuable tool, we might be able to help you broadcast it a little bit. So awesome. And yeah, very technically minded individual, our friend Jacob, who is a self-proclaimed compliance dork. All right, next slide. Which marketing channels are driving the most leads? Zoe, any surprise with the referrals from clients?
It didn't surprise me at all. So I think that a lot of times, and we tell this to our clients, even when we're doing top of the funnel, like cold, like organic lead marketing for content, YouTube, blog, social, whatever, our clients are still getting a lot of referrals from clients. And I think
Yeah.
building that into your strategy to make that part of your consistent lead flow is
Yeah.
a fantastic move. Like you can build kind of the runway for the long term content marketing strategy that's going to work for years to come and have dividends for years to come while
Yeah.
still leveraging your happy clients, your best PR team. Right. So if they can talk you up, like you don't have to do any of that work and you're getting more ideal people in your funnel.
Yeah. Agreed. 100%. We lean into this pretty heavily, right? When I'm coaching with an advisor, or one of the first things that we do, let me first say that the research indicates that small intimate events are number one way to gain. And we're talking about affluent individuals. We're talking about $1 million plus. So 1 million to 10 million is what the survey is done on. Research indicates that small intimate events, not based on business, based on social, is the number one way to get new referrals and introductions. And so, leaning into that research, one of the first things that we do when we're coaching with somebody is to have them identify their top 25 advocates. And I use 4 criteria when identifying an advocate. Number one, and in my opinion, the most important, and probably dependent upon where you are in your maturity level with your business, the most important is, do you like working with them? We do not want to duplicate jerks. So if you like working with them, they pass the first test. Number two, they have the asset level that you want to grow around, right? Do you have a minimum? Do they have that minimum? Does the advocate have that minimum? Number three, have they given referrals in the past? And then number four, are they social? Right. So a lot of this is based on getting to know their neighbors and getting to know a lot of the know your client stuff, right? Who do they know? There's 7 ways that a client of yours is attached to other people, relatives and neighbors and colleagues and maybe outside organizations anyway. So there's 7 ways that we've looked at as how your best client knows other people. So part of your mission then is, when you identify those top 25, is who do they know? Start asking who questions. Oh, what'd you do last weekend? Oh, great. Who'd you do that with? So starting to just get some information out of who they are socially, so that when you do that small intimate event, and wine tastings are great and going to the show is great. I'll tell you what, some of the fun ones that some of our clients are doing right now is go-kart racing, Zoe.
We had a client who, a past client now, but we did some like messaging work and stuff with them, content stuff, and they were really big like outdoors people, and so they used
Yeah,
to take their clients on backpacking trips, and they'd organize like big kayaking events. Like you can do whatever brings you
that's
joy to try to connect with people, and you'll have probably better organic like traction with folks as well. And then I just wanted to call out. Brent dropped in the chat that he's been told that LinkedIn is not an effective marketing channel. Do you disagree? I'll just tell you right now, Brent, it depends on who you're trying to work with, right? If you're working with people who are
yeah,
already retired, who like maybe are not
yeah,
on social as much, yeah, maybe LinkedIn's not a good fit for you. But I would say 90% of our clients are on LinkedIn and it's their number one conversion channel. And Charlie, I know that you're a big LinkedIn advocate as well. So like
yeah.
obviously schedule time with either of us, totally free, happy just to troubleshoot with you on what's going on and who your ideal target audience is. It works really well for a lot of advisors.
Yeah, it sure does. It's one of probably 3 or 4 primary top of funnel strategies. So our goal with LinkedIn, now LinkedIn content isn't, it's important, but when you post on LinkedIn, your average post getting seen by maybe 5 or 7% of your network. So from a content marketing perspective, it's important to be there. But on the flip side of that, when you're doing email marketing, at least your subject line is being seen by upwards of 100% of the people that you have emails for. LinkedIn for us is a great way to meet people. Your content's important, but not as important as your engagement. So you should have a strategy built around engaging with the right people. My goal with LinkedIn is to get email addresses into your email database because I know the effectiveness of email content marketing is, if we're just going by stats, you've got a 20x on people that are going to see your content through email versus LinkedIn. Yeah, Brent, it is effective. Just have some strategy to it. And again, if you want to schedule with me or Zoe at the end of the call, or both of us, we'll both have some good views on that for you. Yeah. So we got the go-kart event, we got a gun event going on, we've got a golf simulator event going on right now. So this is fun stuff, right? Just a couple points on those small, intimate events. Make sure you've got at least 2 advocates there. 3, not 2, maybe 4, but then you're not real intimate. That group's getting pretty big. You don't sell at those events, right? If someone talks about the market or they want to get into a business discussion, you defer that. Your advocates that are there are going to do the selling for you. They're advocates and they've got trust with the people that are there. You're not telling them to bring a friend to this event. You're saying, hey, you mentioned Bob, your neighbor. I'd love to meet him, man. Bring him to the simulator event. Is he a golfer? So anyway, there's a ways, in addition to the marketing, there's ways to accelerate that top end there, which is the referrals from clients and COIs. We got a lot to talk about. I'm keeping an eye on the clock. We're going to move faster here. What type of content gets the best engagement from your audience?
This was not a surprise to me at all. So I feel like even my clients who have historically said, we will never do video. I used to say I'd never do video. Charlie,
Yeah.
I hate being on camera, especially for like shorts or something like quippy
Yeah.
on LinkedIn. Long form video is often stressful for me too. And it's the way of the future. You got to figure out some sort of way to get something brief, imperfect out into the world for like on camera, especially in the age of AI. People want to see your face, hear your voice, get to know you before they schedule a call. And that's the number one way to do it. And the other thing I thought was interesting here was personal stories. We've been selling that for years now of just saying, hey,
Yeah.
we're big like story brand folks. Like I think that having your personal stories, having client case studies, people need to see themselves in your thing. And the best way you can do that is through narrative. The
Yeah.
other one that wasn't a surprise to me was don't know, not sure. I
Yeah.
think that again, this kind of goes back to the clarity conversation. Is if you're doing all a bunch of content or you're doing some content, but you're not really sure what's actually driving results, that's probably worth another look. That's probably worth checking in on like your GA4 dashboard and just seeing what's actually driving people to my website. Is it a specific blog topic? Is it my YouTube channel? Is it what is getting me the leads that I need, even if
Right.
it's not the first place people see me? And I know, Charlie, you've talked about this in the past too, that someone might meet you at a networking event, at a seminar, wherever. What content caused them to convert or get off the couch, so to speak? Is it, okay, they saw my YouTube videos after meeting me and they really felt like it resonated? Did they read a couple blogs? Were they on my email list for a year getting nurtured? That data helps figuring out where people are in your funnel or where they've signed up to hear more from you, and then just seeing when they converted. That can help you track things.
It's Zoe, most of our new clients, yeah, when we get a referral, they tend to become clients faster, just like advisors, right? Our businesses are not too different in that way. But when we get a new client that comes in that we don't necessarily have a history with, or they didn't come through referral, if I look back in the CRM, oftentimes they've been in there at CRM. We connected 3 or 4 years ago, maybe on LinkedIn, or they attended a webinar, or they downloaded this thing off the website. If I look back at history, they've opened 50% of our emails. So you can see all this activity around our content. And then typically the conversion tool that we see the greatest results with is actually webinars. Or I should say educational events, because seminars still work really well too. We had a client do a Social Security workshop and had 5 meetings come out of this one Social Security workshop. So did a great job. That was in person. So it's not like the industry has changed so much. I know a lot of advisors that converted with seminars in years past. Of course, webinars are much easier to pull off and much more cost effective in that respect. They'll attend a webinar, get on my calendar, become a client a month later. I look back, we've got 4 years of history with this person. So knowing where they're coming from and what they're consuming is really important. Otherwise, how do you know what to lean into as far as your time and your money investment?
I think that makes sense. And if you want to jump to the next slide, I can tackle this question here from Alan.
Go.
Alan, I don't think it's unusual to be anxious. I'm a super introvert. I also get nervous, like hopping on a video call with someone who I don't know or who I consider a stranger. And I think it's because essentially, if you look at financial planners as your consultants, right? Just like I'm a marketing consultant, and you're consulting on something that's incredibly vulnerable, someone's financial life, their goals, like their just aspirations in their world. Often they're bringing their loved ones into those conversations. When I'm meeting someone new, I'm helping them with their business and their growth and like their long-term goals. And that is like very high pressure. And so I do not think that it is unusual at all to be anxious about it. And I think the best thing to do, you said here you're there to learn more about you after being introduced. Don't necessarily expect presentations like this to be magnets. I think that's totally fine. I think things like this in LinkedIn Lives or going to industry events, I think that's a really good way to meet people. And kind of, Charlie, to your point, they may have known you for a long time, but I know I've gone to industry events before for financial planners and have people say, "Oh, hey, I've been following you for a while and I've never
Yeah.
seen that person." And I still have that spike of anxiety. I don't know, what are you talking about? But I also like meeting those people and talking to them about their problems. And so I think if you can refocus on how can I get some face time with folks in my niche so that I don't feel like they're all strangers, and how can I help this person immediately take some of that anxiety away? At least for me, that's not necessarily marketing advice. But
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. No, Alan, I don't think the anxiety around it is unusual. I think that, yeah, to your point, Zoe, the level of trust that's required in an engagement like this, it takes time. Very rarely is someone going to meet you and want to do business right away. And I'd be leery of those people anyway, because so often I you can buy leads out of this, and there's lots of places to buy leads, and there's some prominent brands. I won't comment on it at all. I've seen leads out of these prominent lead purchasing places. Someone becomes a client after 3 months of engaging with an advisor and remains a client for 6 months. If they're making a decision that quickly with a stranger, how quickly are they going to make that decision again? So I find that there's a lack of stickiness when someone moves that quickly. Anyway, Jacob, I'll tell you what, let's hold. So, Jacob, I know you and I are chatting. Do I have any feedback on how frequency affects engagement? I need to know more about what you're asking, man. Frequency of email, which is our next slide. But let's comment on that. Jacob, you want to drop something more in the chat, or if you want to chat about it on Monday when we get together, either way. Here's the one on this slide, Zoe, the 17.4 that do not have an email list.
and
I,
I think that for me, email is the number one place that you're going to convert people. Like showing up in their inboxes, especially, and I'm a proponent for LinkedIn marketing, I'm a proponent for social, but I think that the number one conversion spot that we see for our clients is your email list. Because as we've seen in years past, on when Instagram goes down or TikTok goes down or LinkedIn algorithm changes and no one's seeing your posts anymore, I think it just makes it really hard because you don't own that audience. And so instead, if you grow your email list and then stay consistent with communication there, whatever consistency means for you uniquely, that's where you're going to see the most kind of bang for your buck. So I use
yeah,
this as an example. For all of our clients, we typically set up like a monthly to twice a month email newsletter sort of structure, email communication structure, knowing that other stuff is going to come up, knowing that we're going to get awards that we're going to want to promote, or we're going to want us to talk about tax law changes, and that's going to up our email communication. But having a consistent baseline you can track and stay feel good about, I think that's a good place to start.
yeah. I wholeheartedly believe your email database is your most valuable marketing asset. Whether it's driving webinar attendance, whether it's getting content in front of people consistently, you can't really be call to action oriented on social media without alienating a large portion of an audience you're building. Email allows more opportunity to be more call to action oriented as well. So great conversion funnel. And Zoe, I'm going to move pretty quickly through here because we got about
Yeah,
10
that's fine.
minutes. And Jacob, real quick to your question, does emailing your list weekly create a more engaged audience? I will say the portion of that audience that's engaged with you is we typically, most of our clients are doing a weekly email. There's two monthly marketing. So every other week is a marketing email. And then if they run a webinar or a seminar event as a conversion, they're going to be promoting that on the off weeks. So oftentimes our clients are running a weekly email. I know we've got some that don't want to do more than monthly. Or so there's, but no, I think the people that don't want your communication are going to opt out. That's all right. We'd only want to talk to the people that do want it.
Yep. And I would say quarterly for me is a great starting point for people for email marketing. At the end of the day, it's probably not quite enough, like to see consistent conversion. And so I have a lot of clients start there because that's all they can commit to or that's all they can DIY. I think that's fantastic. something is always going to be better than nothing, right? But at the end of the day, your hot leads who come in through a resource or a seminar will forget who you are by the time you send an email 3 months from now. So
That's right. Yeah.
having something automated to nurture folks who first come in is great. And then try to stick with like monthly at a baseline if you can.
Yeah. Agreed. Awesome. So I'll tell you what, I was surprised by the number of people that are tracking pipeline consistently because I don't see it when we engage with somebody and we talk about this and we get in a cadence with this, because it really, to me, is probably the most important weekly activity you can do as long as you're executing on moving that pipeline forward. So I was surprised to see the 35.8 or 34.8 that are doing it consistently. This, to me, you guys, really is a big differentiator between the success, if we're measuring that in new assets, and lack of success. I'll show you very quickly, Jacob, you know it well already, but I'll show you very quickly so we've got most of our advisors are on Go High Level, it's called, is the CRM that we're an agency reseller of this platform. And we'll just spend a minute here. But so within Go High Level, and we've got a lot of this is automated, but you can track. There's 3 advisors on the team that we're looking at right now. And yes, I did get permission to show this. So we'll use Ryan just for example, right? So he has too many people in his pipeline. We usually want to keep this between, say, 50 and 60 people. So he's got too many people in his pipeline. That's a better problem than not enough. But here's opportunities usually coming through, say, webinar attendance or webinar registration, initial outreach, second touch point, right? All the way through to people who have expressed interest. RFSU is Right Fit Setup. The Right Fit meeting is their discovery meeting. And then we don't know the value of everybody, but you can see as you put value in that pipeline, you can see exactly where people lie. And then if we just go to the dashboard of the CRM, this is the last 30 days. So we got to get this number up. But if we go out a little bit on it, like December 1st to say, so we'll do last 60 days. So they got 333 new leads through the system with an opportunity of 11.67 million. And that's I don't know if he's measuring our revenue there, but certainly and then the conversion rate. So you can see, and then one of the really important things that we track, of course, tasks for the team, but where are these opportunities coming from, right? What's the source so tracking all the lead sources is really, really key to what we do as well there. So anyway, it's a great tool. If you want to schedule time, I can show you a little bit more about it, but Zoe and I are coming up against the top of the hour here. I'll move quickly. Zoe, we talked too much early up front.
That's okay. Maybe that's what happened. We were going through this yesterday and we were both like, oh, we might have too much to say.
Yeah, we got a lot to say. Are you using AI tools? Yes, it's a big help. So I'm stoked to see that.
I am too, honestly. And I am not a proponent of everything needs to be AI. I think that we've all seen AI slop out there and been like, what is happening? But I also think that there are so many ways that AI can take some of the repurposing burden off your plate, the automation burden off your plate. It can save you time so that you can go deeper with relationship creating content, with stuff that's going to really show your story, and really invest in areas where you feel good about in your marketing and in your business, and let AI do the heavy lifting on the rest.
I agree. I think, and we see cool tools coming out like Jump and Zox, right, for recording calls and entering CRM notes and sending follow-up emails. Some of the things that I'm starting to see are like meeting prep. Content creation, I think, is a given on some of this stuff. But yeah, so our industry is slow to adapt from a marketing perspective. I love that because we can see trends coming way out there before compliance embraces it. But yeah, so AI is driving, I think, a lot of changes today that just are really based around efficiency at this point. And we're playing with some things internally that trying to incorporate into our offerings as well. That I won't pull the covers back on that yet. But yeah, the fact that the majority of advisors are now embracing AI in some capacity, and the tools are starting to make it really easy. Love to see that. And then our next slide before we get to the summary here, Zoe, which of the following would help you the most right now? No surprise for me. Better lead generation strategy. Yeah, like we talked
I think
about.
that makes total sense. I think a
Yeah.
lot of times when I talk to consulting clients, their number one complaint that I hear anyways is, the lead generation concept, but also feeling like you're marketing into a void, where like so it's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And I think this again ties back to my initial point. I know I'm just beating the same drum, but having clarity around what's working and what's not, and what goals you're actually trying to accomplish, I think that brings more confidence in a better lead generation strategy, adjusting so that it's actually working for you, and just again being hyper clear on what marketing energy am I spending and is that actually moving the needle? Or am I looking at LinkedIn post impressions and they're really high, but I'm not getting any new leads and then I'm frustrated. Like maybe that's not the metric you need to be tracking. Maybe it's new connections or presentations booked or something similar.
Yeah. Agreed. Agreed. So tracking, it really boils down to tracking and leaning into what's working. Now, I would have a little bit of marketing budget testing, and I would have the majority of my marketing budget leaning into those sources that we're tracking that are working the best. And yeah, agreed. Okay. So summary, Zoe, this box top left, I feel like I stated in the beginning, I feel like leadership and marketing leadership is a big gap. Yeah, we see the rise of fractional executives in all facets of the business, COO, CIO. I think being able to hire expert advice at the top on a fractional level that doesn't cost you the salary of a dedicated executive, I think is a smart move. But yeah, I think that lack of leadership, I think, is probably the biggest takeaway here.
I would agree with that. I think too, whether it's someone internally where you're delegating this, making sure that you have space to take off the CMO hat in your business, whether it's, and you can decide what level of support you need, right? There's consultants out there, Charlie and myself included, who do just strategy and implementation, strategy and hooking you up with another implementation specialist, strategy and training your team. There's 1,000 different combinations of how you can get the help you need so that, again, you're at least doing something and not nothing.
Yeah, agreed. Cool. Now let's get on to the good stuff. Zoe's got an awesome giveaway. Perfectly Planned Content, they do a full year marketing calendar. It's awesome. I've looked at it. So by all means, scan that QR code and make sure you pick up Zoe's 2026 marketing calendar. And then my offer on the left there is we'll do consultations. Typically there's a charge for those, but we're opening up 10 of them for our webinar attendees here. If you're interested in sitting down for 60 minutes and peeling back the layers and seeing what's working for you now, and I can give you some good advice on where to double down and maybe where to pull back a little bit and how to make sure you're measuring the metrics that are working and choosing that niche, and wherever you're struggling with in your marketing, happy to offer almost 3 decades crazy of experience I've gleaned over that time. So this is
Yep.
awesome.
And you can always connect with us on LinkedIn. That's where I'm most
For sure.
active. Check out our website. This is one of many resources we have available. And if you ever have questions, I like just talking about this stuff. So you can always shoot me a
Yeah.
LinkedIn message or an email. I'm not one of those people who's you've got to get on my calendar that's 2 months out. Like I'm happy just to respond with like quick hit information or try to troubleshoot with you.
Yeah. That's awesome. Zoe, thank you for doing this with me.
Thanks so much for having me, Charlie. This was
Oh
fun.
my gosh. Yeah. I think there's some good valuable data that came out of this. And of course, we're easy people to find. So if you've got any questions, we'll get a replay off to you. We'll get your initial survey off to you as well as a slide deck here. And so if you got any questions, we're easy people to hook up with.
All right.
All
Thanks,
right.
everybody.
Thanks, Zoe. Have a great day.
Bye.